Thank you so much to Misplay for sponsoring this video, but more on them later. Hey, yeah, are we rolling yet? Yeah? Okay, cool, awesome. You're gonna blur my face, right? Yeah? Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure. So, what is a Fujoshi?
Oh, yes. A Fujoshi is a woman who enjoys gay men romance stories like boys love or BL, Yaoi, and the sort. Yeah.
Are you one? Are you a Fujoshi?
um, uh, well, I get called a Fujoshi a lot for some reason. I mean, I don't read boys love BL manga, yaoi, anime, or any of that stuff. But I do ship gay men ships and fandoms, but also like gay women ships too. So I don't know. I don't think so. But I don't know. I don't like the word fujoshi though.
Why?
Be, well, because it means you're rotten. I don't want to be called rotten.
A good portion of my online content surrounds LGBTQIA issues and representation in video games. I mean, look at me. I don't think I had to clear that up for you. A quick gander at my video registrar shows that I started off this series with the game Genshin Impact and dissecting the hidden queer coding in it. I had a lot of fun talking about the potential coding for the women-loving women ships as well as the male-loving male ships. I made 3 videos on this, totaling around 2.5 hours of content, and right when I published the 3rd and final one, I got this quote retweet. The women-loving women content being 2 NPCs, Chlorivia, which is a Genshin queer womanship, barely mentioned in the I haven't found much content but there's some stuff part, and then a disclaimer about another fem/ship being absolutely forgotten. Wow. With a reply under that being, I'm not surprised. After watching some of her videos, she's definitely an avid Fujoshi. Bro, I was pissed off. I'll be so real, okay? A Fujoshi? I'm offended. I'm not like one of them. Am I? I had to take a step back because not only is this like wrong, I love me, my women-loving women ships, hey, but also I shouldn't have to explain that to you. I found myself in the position where I was defending myself against the Fujoshi allegations. Why? Why did I feel the need to? And also, like, what is wrong with Fujoshis? And after much research, data gathering, and philosophical pondering, I have come to the conclusion for this video that the vilification of the Fujoshi is a hate bandwagon at best and misogynistic, racist, and transphobic at worst. Whoa, that is quite the potent claim to make, but why do I make it? Well, you're watching the video, so I'm gonna explain it now. Hello, my beautiful rat sewer. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome to it. My name is E as in Yaoi, girl. Make sure to like and subscribe, and also I stream on Twitch. Join us at twitch.tv/eissocial. And now, without any further ado, let's dive into the world of Fujoshis. Hey, okay, so there are going to be a lot of terms that we may or may not be familiar with, so let's just level the playing field, okay? At the beginning, I gave kind of like a really quick, vague definition of what a Fujoshi is, but let's get a nice, good, bare bones definition. Fujoshi is a Japanese word that seemed to have been coined on Japanese internet forums by men. It basically refers to a woman who enjoys boys' love in any form. Boys' love, also known as BL, is a type of genre in the manga anime scene, which is basically just a love story between 2 boys. pretty straightforward, okay? The term yaoi is a phrase often used in tandem with BL. In Japan, it primarily referred to the fan-created works that featured a love story between two male characters from a popular anime or manga. Yaoi is actually an acronym for the phrase Yamanishi Ochinashi Iminashi, which translates to no climax, no punchline, no meaning. Basically meaning that there's no real purpose, there's no real plot, just vibes, alright? It's just for fun. These created works are often in the form of doujinshis, which are basically self-published books that can be like fanzines or original stories. The word doujinshi itself translates to magazine published by like-minded people. So it was always meant for a tight-knit community and like-minded people, like how I just said. So, for example, yaoi would be what a doujin about Naruto and Sasuke from Naruto being in love is called. There are huge conventions dedicated purely to doujin creations, such as Kamiket and Komishiya. The full history of doujins and the word yaoi shows the original use of the word, but nowadays, yaoi kind of has the connotation of being boys' love stories, but in an explicit form, I should say. In the West, where I live, we often use the word yaoi as a synonym to boys' love. So, for example, if I say I liked the two characters Kaveh and Alhaitham from Genshin Impact to be in love, I would call that a yaoi ship. And when I was on our god-loving website AO3 and I read a good angsty fan fiction between the two of them, I would put down the story and go, God! I love yaoi. Also, some more terms for a now you know kind of thing. Yuri is the same thing, but about two women being in love. And girls who like Yuri are called himijoshi, while the boys who like Yuri are called himidanshi. Men who like boys' love, instead of fujoshi, are actually called fudanshi. There's a lot of connotations and history behind these words, but we're just gonna start off simple. So let's circle back to the main character of the story, the Fujoshi. I mentioned it was a word coined by men for women, and you know, historically speaking, never a good thing. Never a good thing to happen. Male anime or manga fans, known as anime or manga otakus in Japan, wanted to give a name to other women otakus who like to consume BL. The term Fujoshi written in this way actually translates to respectable woman. But these sneaky men did a 1-2 and switched out one of the characters to a homophone that completely changed the meaning. So the meaning of the word Fujoshi went from respectable woman to rotten woman. Rotten for enjoying a homoerotic love story between two men. Rotten and thus unsavory and not good for marriage. As time passed, these rotten women wanted to reclaim the word in a self-deprecating way. They would soon start to refer to themselves as Fujoshi, refer to themselves as rotten, in a way to gain back some power that these stinky men tried to take away from them. The history of this word is often forgotten, either purposefully or out of ignorance. In my own experience online, I've run into people who think that Fujoshis call themselves rotten in like a serious way, like Fujoshis genuinely think that they are rotten for consuming queer stories in a kind of like weird way, but that's just not the case. It was always kind of reclaiming a derogatory word that was inflicted upon them by men. So I'm glad we cleared that up. In an article by Professor Fujimoto Yukari from Meiji University, Professor Fujimoto explained the history and evolution of boys' love and yaoi. Before it went global, boys' love was a genre that sprouted in the 1970s in the original form of shonenai, meaning adolescent boys' love, that often appeared in girls' manga, which was also known as shoujo. In the 1960s, most, if not all, manga that was created for girls was written by men. Men dominated the manga industry and left little room for women as colleagues or as fictional subject matter. Soon, in the 70s, women born after the war decided to pick up the pen and start creating the manga they wanted to see, and a very interesting thing resulted from it. Fujimoto writes, previously, girls' manga featured female lead characters, inevitably limiting expression due to women's position in society. With male protagonists, creators could depict more independent and proactive characters and include bold, erotic narratives. This realization offered an opportunity, and female readers fervently embraced these works depicting attachment and love between male characters. And thus, BL was born, with the authors of these works being primarily women and the fans, Fujoshi, being women. An additional point to this comes from Kumiko Saito's article, Desire and Subtext, Gender, Fandom, and Women's Male-Male Homoerotic Parodies in Contemporary Japan. Saito points out the fact that in these early times in shoujo manga, the act of sex for these female characters was often portrayed as a moment of self-sacrifice. A moment of love so strong that the woman would just deal with the pain of the whole ordeal just to get through with it. Now, BL seems to show a direct progression of these two occurrences. One, BL had male leads, which led for the characters to be portrayed as more independent and more bold. BL showed two people both enjoying themselves in the act, where neither one of them was sacrificing something in order to be with the other. Early works of BL were spearheaded by two women, the trailblazers themselves, Takemiya Keiko and Hagio Moto, who aimed to start a revolution with their boys' love stories. These earlier works, such as The Poe Clan, The Boy's Name is Gilbert, and The Heart of Thomas, set the manga world on fire. The poem of Wind and Trees by Takemiya was considered the peak of BL, Fujimoto describes, but it featured very graphic scenes of crashed and sexual violence. These themes were present primarily due to the shift in manga at the time from frivolous stories to more serious topics and political issues. This trend of including taboo and or graphic scenes would continue in some of the BL works that followed in these women's footsteps, some of which would not handle the subject matter in a respectful way, let's just say, and these works would unfortunately give BL a pretty negative reputation. So, if you were not familiar with these terms or this history, then you probably are not familiar with how fujoshis are seen and treated online. If you are normal and not chronically online, you might be thinking, okay, what's the big deal? Well, let's get into the big deal. Online, fujoshis are seen with disgust and disdain. If you do a quick search here on youtube.gov, you will see a few pop-ups of commentary videos like this one talking about how problematic the fujoshi is. No shade to them, by the way, y'all slay, okay? The aim for this video is to explore the disdain held by people and to question it. Are fujoshis really as bad as they say? Should they be abhorred and shamed? Or are we all being a tad too silly, overgeneralizing again and falling into misogynistic traps? So let's start to answer some of these questions. Pause. You might be thinking, this is a lot of research and philosophical pondering you are doing. Do you ever get to relax? And I respond with, oh my god, I didn't think you guys cared about me like that. But yes, I personally wind down with the help of today's sponsor, Mistplay. Wow, what a seamless and gorgeous segue. Mistplay is a loyalty app for certified gamers like you and me that has a ginormous database of games that can fit your every need, whether that be adventure, strategy, puzzle, card games, and more. But the best part about Mistplay is that you get rewarded for playing these games. When you download a new game through Mistplay, you earn points, which can later be redeemed for gift cards such as PlayStation, Xbox, GameStop, and tons of others. I'm currently eyeing the Sephora gift card because I have got to continue to fund this sleigh. And to do that, I have been clocking in on King's Throne, which is my favorite game that I've downloaded through Mistplay so far. I'm on a huge medieval kick right now, so anything that is whimsical in that regard, I am diving in head first, dude. So don't dilly-dally. Visit misplay.com/e, or you can click on the link in my description to download Mistplay for free. You'll get 200 bonus points when you sign up today, and when you use my code E50 in the app, you'll get an additional 50 points that will get you started on earning your very first gift card. See the description for all of the details. Thank you again so much to Mistplay for sponsoring this video, and if you don't mind me, I'm gonna go revenge my father and write some medieval yaoi. Okay, bye. So, as you saw in the beginning of my experience being called a Fujo, which wasn't the first time, by the way, fujoshis aren't referred to in a generally positive light. The argument for why fujoshis are inherently problematic is a tale as old as time. They are f***izing gay men. For the rest of the video, instead of saying f***izing, I'm going to be saying fishizing, so sorry, it's YouTube's fault, not mine. This is a common concern when people first encounter women, usually straight women, who like to consume stories about boys being in love or boys doing other things with each other. This is one of the reasons where hatred for these women stem from. Exploiting queer people for their own enjoyment and then going out and being homophobic in the real world. It is a common concern and also a pretty valid one to an extent. One of the biggest critiques for BL and yaoi is that these stories are not actually depicting gay men. They're just depicting a fantasy version of two guys getting together. Some argue that these depictions of same-sex relationships by women are only made to be consumed by women, and that there's absolutely no room for these works to exist as good queer representation. Some argue that it was always supposed to be a fantasy thing and that it's not that serious. My personal opinion right now, spoiler alert, is that I fall right in the middle of these two. As a queer person myself, I mean, obviously, I take queer representation very seriously. But I'm also not in the business of shaming or monitoring or policing what people consume in their free time. It is the ultimate debate of should women be creating this type of content and should they be consuming it? And if they do create or consume it, does that make them fetishistic monsters? To answer the growing list of questions, let's start at why. Why are women drawn to this sort of story in the first place? I half answered this question in the history portion of how BL came to be, where one, men were allowed to just be more independent inherently as being men in society, and also both characters in the story were shown to both enjoy the act equally and lovingly, which was as opposed to how women characters were often portrayed, and also how women characters were portrayed during the act and how much it was a self-sacrifice to them. Like, that is crazy, dude. So, the solution, right? Two male main characters who did the do together. Revolutionary concept indeed. We can turn to further answers from the Fujoshi's Fantasy Trouble, Body, Desire, and Imagining in the Ontology of Boys Love Fantasy by Cheng Wei-Zhang, who explores the psychological backings to the reasons why women are interested in these types of stories. One of the main points that Cheng argues is that women consuming and creating boys love is driven by a need to be free of oppressive heteronormative roles that have been put upon them. Women desire for stories where one is not lesser than the other, the woman is not lesser than the man, but that both people in the relationship are inherently seen as equals. Additionally, Cheng writes, since cis male bodies are divorced from pregnancy and childbirth, it has been pointed out that BL can serve to liberate women from the gender norm of compulsory motherhood. Translation courtesy of my fluent Japanese speaking friend, Hi Stone. Hi, you slay, thank you. BL relationships seem to act as a way for women to explore sexuality and love, but without any inherent power dynamics that are found within gender roles. That makes sense to me personally because the only heterosexual ships that I enjoy are the ones where they're enemies, so thus they're both equal in that way, or the girl is some girl boss badass and the boy is some sweet golden retriever puppy dog kind of relationship. Any other straight romance? Yuck, not about it. That is a thing that I noticed within myself and clicked when I read this article. This want for freedom from heteronormativity in BL is both upheld and contradicted in these stories, where the two male leads often fit into the heteronormative stereotypes, one being the masculine and dominant one, or the seme, and the other being overly feminine and submissive, aka the uke. Both realities can exist at once, where BL can act as an escape from heteronormativity while also reinforcing it. Human nature is just kind of like that. It's always existing in a gray area and will never exist in terms of black and white. Maybe it's so women can imagine themselves in the role of the uke, or somehow forcing men into these roles that women have been subjected to since the beginning of history can be some sort of like payback. Very much a la this meme right here, where the meme says that yaoi is payback for all those years that men didn't allow women to vote. Like, that's a joke, obviously, but also could have a little bit of truth to it. It's almost next to impossible to put an exact pin into this, because every single person that writes or consumes BL yaoi is a different person. The sexual violence that sometimes occurs in BL stories is an interesting phenomenon as well. Cheng cites it as a feminist issue and goes on to explain how it serves as an act of rifting male gender norms and can be used as a sort of power to women. To be honest, I don't like where that's going, but it is a very honest and serious point to look towards when talking about BL as a genre. It does happen, but of course not every single BL work contains these topics, but it has unfortunately become become a pretty distasteful stereotype of the genre as a whole, and another point of contention when talking about Fujoshis in some people's eyes. There is also the topic and stereotype that Fujoshis just actually hate gay men, and all they want to do is fetishize them through the act of creating and consuming BL. I mean, the stereotype is straight women getting all excited seeing two pretty boys kiss. There's no other word to that specifically than fetishization. That is the biggest complaint when it comes to Fujoshis and the mere existence of BL. I personally do think that that term is thrown around a lot, very loosey-goosey style. Can you fetishize fictional characters? Not entirely sure, but put a pin in that, okay? We're gonna come back to that. We're gonna circle back. I have heard the horror stories back in the day when the Fujoshis would enter the wild at the anime conventions with the ever infamous yaoi paddle and go around smacking dudes that were cosplaying their two favorite male anime characters that they saw kissing in a yaoi dojin once. Yeah, that actually used to happen. That was a genuine concern. It was like kind of like the Fujoshi with the yaoi paddle waiting outside your door. Like that was a genuine concern for people going to anime conventions because it actually happened. That is so far out there. I don't know who thought that was a good idea. It's something so out there. You just kind of have to laugh. You know, it's so ridiculous. But of course, as all things with overgeneralizing, unfortunately, those few that wielded such a weapon caused a ripple of hate to be sent on any other women that shared any characteristics with those people. It's the thought process of, oh, I saw Fujoshi wield a yaoi paddle in '05. Every single woman who consumes BL must be like that. This thought process applied to anything is a dangerous one. Overgeneralizing leads to images like this one, an image that makes its rounds on the internet every so often with this horrific caricature of the Fujoshi. Sloppy, smelly, ugly, overtly fetishizes real gay men, and other really distasteful jokes that I have blurred out because, hey, they're just gross, bro. Images like this one, where my friend reminded me of its existence, unfortunately, are one of the reasons why I'm making this video. It's another tale of the dangers of overgeneralization and how unchecked hate can lead to some pretty dark places. So to sum up this section, there are of course some very valid critiques to make of BL as a genre and also of Fujoshi of old, but does BL come from a place of oppression? And is the hate for Fujoshis just a side effect of misogyny, among others? And that, my friend, takes us to the next section. My arm fucking hurts. AO3, the God-honoring fanfiction website of purity and wholesomeness. Joking. Can you imagine? AO3, short for Archive of Our Own, is a website for the most hardcore of fanfiction reading and composing. When you are but a weed lad, you start off strong on Wattpad, or even the occasional short Tumblr fic, reading about your favorite Doctor Who characters, but like in a high school setting, for example. When you have weathered these storms and as you age, you soon graduate to the treacherous waters of AO3, where the tagging and content rating soon turns into another language for you because you have to whip out the literal Rosetta Stone to translate that. Anything goes on this website, for it is the Wild West for many a reader and writer. And honestly, it's the backbone of society today, okay? Fanfiction writers, I salute you. For it arguably being the destination in the West for writers to flock to when they want to share their creativity on just how freaky Sherlock and Watson can get together, I will now turn to its collective database to put a finger on the pulse of what the people are craving these days. And spoiler alert, it's gay. Some may argue it's yaoi. Okay, AO3 user, center of these lights, I salute you, put together an AO3 ship stats of 2023 that depicted the most popular fanfiction pairings from August 2022 to August 2023, with 4,472 kudos, which is likes, basically, to normal people. The center of these lights gives us a good glance into what the people of the internet crave the most when interacting with media. And it's yaoi, bitch. The top 10 ships are all male-male slash ships, with 2 Minecraft YouTubers being in a platonic ship category for some reason. I don't know them like that, so. We got yaoi from all corners of the world. We got Stranger Things yaoi. We got Genshin Impact yaoi. We got Call of Duty yaoi. And of course, we gotta have some toxic anime bakudeku yaoi, alright? It's all there, whatever you want, we got it. Our first Yuri ship, my ladies, comes from Wednesday, sitting pretty at 11th place. And the first heterosexual ship, for all my straight friends out there, between Hermione and Draco, sits very pretty at 12th place. Take a long, hard look, y'all. The people, they crave yaoi. And who are we to call them rotten because of it? When I was being raised by the internet and I first encountered the word Fujoshi and the connotation behind it, I immediately hated it and them. I disdained Fujoshis and I adopted the mindset to ostracize them and distance myself away from them. But I mean, like, girl, I was a Fujoshi, and apparently I still am. I was up at midnight writing Dean and Castiel fanfiction from Supernatural. You don't get bigger Fujo than that, okay? I had a lot of thoughts at this age, right? I hated pink because it was too girly of a color. I liked the color blue and tried to get into Pokemon and soccer because I was not like other girls, girl, okay? I avoided boy bands like the plague because I thought that since a bunch of girls liked them, then they weren't that serious. And I liked real music instead. But you know what? Secretly, I kind of liked some of the One Direction songs. And I thought Pink was pretty in pastel form. I did not like Pokemon. And I was not good at soccer. So who was I pretending for? This internal misogyny that I had at this young age was pretty much celebrated by the culture at the time because it was good not to be like other girls or to fall into the femininity trap. But, you know, as I got older, hi, my hair's pink, and also, what's wrong with other girls? This mindset is one of the many that I believe fuels the hate for Fujoshis. At the end of the day, it's overgeneralizing an entire group of women and shaming them for what they consume. There are absolutely critiques that we can have for the genre itself, but not every single woman who reads yaoi is running around with a yaoi paddle, alright? It just feels like a really easy scapegoat in order to just shame women. Policing what a woman can or cannot do based on her identity as a woman is straight up just textbook misogyny. I am so sorry. You are literally falling into the trap that those men created when they coined the word Fujoshi in order to shame women out of their nerdy otaku spaces. That is just never a practice we should get used to or accustomed to. And honestly, it just kind of gets worse from here. Sam ABURIME wrote an incredible article called The Influence of Transphobia, Homonationalism, and Anti-Asian Prejudice, Anti-BL Attitudes in English-Speaking Fandoms, which blows the door wide open on these anti-Fujoshi practices online and their really dark pasts. ABURIME also compiled an entire database chock full of examples of anti-BL and anti-Fujoshi discourse across the internet over the course of 3 years. And this website, of course, is linked in the description down below. Fair warning to anyone planning to read ABURIME's article, which I highly recommend. It's an amazing piece. There's a lot of examples of homophobic, transphobic, and racism. It's hard to read, so I do caution anybody who goes to read these sources, but again, I highly recommend it if you're able to. Great work. Let's begin talking about ABURIME's findings. I hope I'm saying ABURIME's correctly. I apologize in advance. ABURIME examines the behavior that anti-Fujoshis exhibit online, which are sometimes violent and racist in their discussions over BL and what is considered good queer representation. It is a common belief that any work that is created as a BL, which in their definition means any Japanese BL, must thus be tainted, and only Fish's content and the only good queer content is that from the West. Heartstopper, the popular gay love story between boys that went on to be adapted by Netflix, is often cited as a better gay love story than anything that BL can produce. One screenshot states, "Honey, no. Heartstopper doesn't fall under the category of a BL or a yaoi. It's a queer coming-of-age love story that deals with identity in relation to oneself and to others. It's a healthy depiction of queerness and queer joy. So, no. Not a BL or a yaoi." Just for the record, Heartstopper is a BL, okay? It's a boys' love story. It's in the very essence, the genre of BL. The only real difference is that Heartstopper was written by a British author. So are you saying that every BL that exists that is made by a Japanese person is bad then? I have a feeling that's not what you want to say. BL itself is a genre. Some stories in that genre suck. Others don't. That's kind of just how every genre is. It's just a whole world. Saying you hate BL is kind of like saying you hate action and adventure. You know what? Sure, some action flicks objectify women like nuts, okay? I can't seem to watch a Fast and Furious movie without seeing some model's butt on my screen every 2 seconds, okay? That doesn't mean I'm going to go on and hate the entire action and adventure genre because of a theme that is present in some of the works. Because you know what? John Wick will not stand for this slander, neither will Jurassic Park or Suicide Squad. The Meg is cinema, alright? Whether you like it or not. Okay, the bit may have gone too far, but you get the point. Let me know any other action movies you guys like, because I love a good action flick. I do. ABURIME in the article says, quote, gay men's pornography was rarely, if ever, brought up or compared to BL. And at times, it even appeared as if anti-BL critics were arguing that heterosexual women, i.e. Fujoshi, were the only people portraying queer male characters in an explicit manner. In short, for any anti-BL homo-nationalists, what is deemed harmful in Asian BL becomes representative of all BL, and what is deemed good or healthy in Western queer narratives centering gay men become representative of all Western narratives centering gay men. ABURIME goes on to state how the author of Heartstopper themselves had renounced BL as a whole, and yet stated how several BLs, such as Given and the mangaka BL writer Hayakawa Nojiko, were direct inspirations for Heartstopper's creation. ABURIME states, Osman, Heartstopper's author, was also documented on a separate occasion stating that yaoi and BL are riddled with very nasty toxic tropes because they're genres that tend to fetishize and erotize queer men in a really bad way. At the time of these comments, Osman drew distinctions as to what they believed made their work distinct from BL, noting realism and complex character relationships that were respectful and not explicit. As for the BL works that inspired them, Osman labeled those works MLM manga and considered them an exception to the majority of BL. So you can't say all BL is bad, but not the few that I like, because those aren't BL, those are MLM. You can't just rewrite the genre like that based on your qualifications and what you deem is worthy or not. It's very selective and narrow-minded and a little racist. A little racist. It gets worse with ABURIME's findings, unfortunately, who dived into the history behind a lot of the hot ticket phrases that people like to use online and how they stem from transphobic origins. Yo, it's E as in editor in a much higher quality resolution. Don't ask me. Do not ask me why, okay? Don't ask. I'm popping in rock quick to give you guys a trigger warning. I forgot to record this in the script. I'm going to be showing some examples and some screenshots of users utilizing some pretty nasty transphobic language. It's not super extreme, but it's enough to make me sad. So I wanted to give you guys a proper warning. You could skip to this timestamp right here if you want to skip, or you can just mute for a little bit and then, I don't know, I might come back and be like, hey. All right, that's all. See ya. The phrase most often used, as I mentioned earlier, when shaming Fujoshi and BL creatives is that they are f***ing gay men, and that every single Fujoshi is a straight woman with evil motives. First of all, a lot of the people consuming BL and yaoi are queer people, which I'll get into shortly, so it seems like an act of friendly fire more often than not. But second, the accusation of f***izing actually originates from gender-critical circles online. Gender criticals are transphobic communities that are hell-bent on trying to shame and bring awareness to the sickness of transgenderism. When on the topic of Fujoshis, gender criticals would cite that gay trans men were all actually just heterosexual women who read too much BL and who were just hoping to be able to be the yaoi men in their manga and use it as a way to get with gay guys. The hot token phrase of f***izing was the go-to argument for gender criticals when directly attacking trans men who liked BL. Quote, gender Gender criticals refer to trans men, and by extension Fujoshi, as homophobic, due to their belief that trans men are heterosexual women forcing their way into authentic, i.e. cisgender, gay male spaces. Over time, gender criticals attached negative emotional language to Fujoshi, BL, and other related terms, which resulted in evaluative conditioning. Such conditioning has been used to demonize LGBTQ+ people for decades in the US and elsewhere. Evaluative conditioning is very much prejudiced people attaching very intense, strong worded emotions to their target in order for people to be on their side. A lot of gender criticals at this time would go undercover into pro-trans spaces and try to pass off as being pro-trans, and would in time start to slowly condition everyone in those spaces to use these hot token phrases that would start to align with their own prejudiced beliefs. These people, often coined crypto turfs because they were hidden, so they're crypto, wanted the divide that is now present in these LGBTQ+ spaces. They wanted the members to hate each other, to start throwing around accusations and overgeneralizations, to further alienate and ostracize members of our own community, and it has worked. Look at us, the current state of the internet these days. They got us at each other's throats, dude. Monitoring and policing what each other can consume, and claiming that if one woman reads a yaoi, she is simultaneously taking the rights away from queer men, which is just a very wild and extremist point of view. We have to be careful when picking up and adopting these charged phrases. We don't know who coined them, and we don't know how much hurt they can truly cause. These points are still bleeding into this argument that makes its rounds on the internet every so often, with these tweets here having blown up around the same time as writing this video. It's the debate of why are yaoi ships more popular? And it seems to always end up in people saying that women and male fans just hate women characters, and they don't find as much value in female characters as they do male characters, which I totally agree to an extent. Internal misogyny is a bitch, dude. I find myself trying to actively combat some of the internalized misogyny that I have in my own brain here. But I don't think it's very productive to just like start yelling at women for this thing that we're all being afflicted by, and also trying to tell them how to enjoy fictional characters properly. I don't think that's very productive. It's definitely something to talk about for sure, but getting genuinely mad that the top ships on AO3 are all gay yaoi ships is just not gonna get anyone anywhere. And also, to say hello to the elephant in the room, women like men. Women are going to be attracted to a lot of male characters because women are attracted to men. And it doesn't make anyone a better person for liking Yuri ships or for liking female characters more. It's not a contest, okay? It's just a hobby. I wanted to put my finger to a pulse, and not the pulse, because I don't think that's humanly possible, but I asked the amazing rat sewer community, hi guys, here on YouTube and on Twitter, by asking them to fill out this Google form with these questions, asking how Fujoshis are viewed in their opinion, why they are, and what the draw of BL is to them as a person. And holy mackerel, dude, you guys did not play. We got 467 responses on the Google form alone, which is not even including the DMs I got on Twitter and Instagram. So I wanted to say first, thank you to everyone who participated. I know I can't say thank you personally to everybody, so consider this a personal thank you. So after going through them all, here are some of the conclusions that I made. A lot of the straight women that filled out the form would acknowledge how Fujoshis are seen and viewed online as these obnoxious homophobic creeps, but that they themselves just liked a good romance. Every single answer I got from a straight woman was very respectful and just normal. One straight woman from South Africa wrote, "What I love about BL stories is how it's usually a story of self-discovery from one character or both, about their purpose, sexuality, life in general. Like, the story isn't just centered around the romance. A lot of BL stories are beautifully written and filmed. I also love the uncertainty and almost forbidden love aspect that some stories display, the uncertainty from the character or characters." Another straight woman from Ireland wrote, "Well, as a female, I'd like to think it's okay for women to consume BL. If people find it weird, then I'd really like to understand why. It's not just BL content that I consume, but shouldn't it be a good thing to get a wider audience to enjoy queer media? This could stop the barrier of having only straight ships in big brand movies if more people get into it, and understand that it's not a big deal and that non-straight couples exist and deserve to be seen and represented. I could understand if people find it weird, if they fetishize it and become obsessed, but as someone who just enjoys reading about some guys falling in love, like any other romance novels that exist, I can't see why it's a big deal. BL. Every single straight woman that answered my questions were just normal people and just loved a good romance story. And when I asked them if they thought that BL was good queer representation, they either said, I'm not queer, so I don't think I have the authority to answer that question, or they would say, yeah, some stories definitely are, some stories aren't. A lot of the Google form answers came from queer people themselves. I'd like to say that a lot of people who like BL or yaoi are queer themselves, but I have to acknowledge that I'm pulling from a very queer viewer base. I know a lot of my viewers are queer themselves, so it's not fair to me to say, based on my results, this proves that there are more queer people consuming yaoi than straight people, but every single person I know that reads BL or yaoi is gay as hell, so do with that what you will. The general consensus from my queer people would also acknowledge the infamous image of the Fujoshi, but a common phrase that I ran into a lot is, as long as they aren't being weird in real life, then I don't care. A respondee from Vietnam said, I feel it has always been some misogynistic undertone to the online treatments of those who's perceived as Fujoshi, but I don't think it's talked about enough how the mistreatment of Fujoshi is linked to the misogyny still present in queer circles, especially the ones predominantly occupied by gay men. There's a pretty common consensus that Fujoshis only view gay men as sexual objects, and the act of consuming media depicting gay relationships is Fujoshis just fetishizing gay men. While now I can see how wrong it is, I still remember how when I first engaged in online circles about queer media, I was surrounded by people saying that Fujoshis are just a bunch of horny teenage girls watching hot men kissing for mere arousal and not actually doing anything to support queer rights movements, and also bullying queer men online who don't fit into their expectations of how gay men should act or look like. I was so affected by such opinions that I channeled all of my anger and frustration I had as a gay boy who recently came out onto Fujoshis too. Even though I did see instances in which Fujoshis did some nasty things and understood where those gay men come from, I think the backlash Fujoshis usually received was mostly just purely hate and bullying, with no room for discourse or education at all. A non-binary aro-ace lesbian from China wrote, Fujoshi seems to be very hated online in Western spaces in my experience. Some of it is usually justified because some of them are really weird, which is why I used to be very anti-Fujoshi since I did know gay men who found it really disturbing. But then I feel like not everyone who calls themselves a Fujoshi necessarily fetishizes MLM, especially in my area. Fujoshis just are people who like BL on the Asian side of the internet, I feel like. They later went on to say that BL to them was one of their introductions to queerness, and it helped make them realize that they were not straight. A gay man from the US admitted that from his exposure to BL and yaoi, he had, quote, only seen more fetishized roles from the BL pair. He then went on to list Western examples like Jacob Hill from Elementary, Heartstopper, and Elliot Page from the Umbrella Academy as being better queer representation. Another case of seeing Western rep as inherently better than Asian BL, which I don't think this respondee intentionally meant to say, but it does showcase an underlying thought process that is in a lot of people's minds. A bisexual trans man from the US stated how he heavily disliked them, Fujoshis, due to personal reasons. Most of them are MLM fetishizers, and I don't like people fetishizing my identity, but went on to continue that he wasn't too keen on women consuming or creating BL due to meeting some women who made him uncomfortable in the past, but, quote, I know some women simply respect and want to consume queer content. As long as they are respecting MLM identity, not letting it completely take over their media consumption, it's cool to me. A male at birth bisexual genderqueer from Puerto Rico said, Fujoshis are both idolized and heavily criticized in fandom, since young women always get shat on. At the same time, they drive fandom like headless horsemen, so we have to give them some respect. A gay man from East Asia also shared how he was negatively affected by some of the BL and yaoi that he read while growing up. He felt like he didn't fit into the stereotypes that these fictional pieces seemed to put him into. Quote, it made me feel insecure with how I acted due to how I saw feminine men being treated in BL. The aggression, the lack of consent in yaoi, all those made me feel so uncomfortable within myself. It grew in me the insecurity that perhaps everything everyone ever told me about being gay as a sin was right. Now that I am older, I can easily maneuver around the burnt edges of BL, aka the bad stuff, and understand how BL isn't accurate reflections of gay relationships, and I can appreciate BL for what it is now, rather than search into it for answers. I tried to pick as many diverging opinions as I can from this huge list of respondees, again, thank you, to try to give you a good idea of a lot of different people's thoughts. A lot acknowledged how the Fujoshi, with a capital F, was seen, while also acknowledging the complexity of the issue. Many said, as long as they aren't weird, then I'm I'm fine. And those that have actually been affected by this scary figure out in the wild can also accept that not everybody is like that. The existence of BL was also able to show a lot of queer people the existence of other queer people, and it gave them a chance to become more comfortable within themselves and their sexuality. Meanwhile, some stories are chock full of toxic stereotypes that can be detrimental to a gay man's image as he's growing up into his identity. We can absolutely critique some works for handling subject matter in a bad way, while also praising good ones for being good works. Something as complex as BL and the Fujoshi can be gray. It can have its extremes and its plateaus, just like everything. It, again, is not a black and white issue. BL shouldn't be this nasty, tainted word. It's just another genre that exists today. And that's okay. Out of all of these responses, I did not get one that was like this. Not one encapsulated the Fujoshi with a capital F. This image of the Fujoshi seems more akin to the Babadook in modern internet spaces than a regular occurrence. I just do not think that the Fujodook is as prevalent as everyone is trying to make it out to be. Yes, there are some weirdos online that take liking BL way too far, with a yaoi paddle in one hand and homophobia in the other. But dare I say, isn't that the case with everything? Yes, some BL yaoi works can be problematic, but that doesn't mean every single one is, because it's a pretty huge genre that covers a lot of stories. Is every single woman who reads yaoi or BL some kind of monstrous advertiser? No, we should not be growing accustomed to thinking in these extremes. This is overgeneralization, point blank. That seems to be more rooted in misogyny and racism and even transphobia than it being an actual genuine cry for LGBTQIA+ rights. The ending message after all of this that I want to leave with you all is to discourage you from overgeneralizing, to thinking in these black and white extremes. We shouldn't get into the habit of policing what women can or cannot consume based on their identity as women. Some people are weird. Some people aren't. You just have to have your own mind about things. If you see a female identifying person who is excitedly talking about her favorite fictional ship that is between two guys, and you decide to shame her for it and then label her as a Fujoshi in a derogatory way, then you know what? Shame on you. She's not hurting anyone. But you are. Also, did I really need to do a 40-minute video essay with the message being, leave women alone? And also, it's fine if women like seeing guys kiss. Did it really need to ever get to be that serious, guys? Come on. I really hope this trend of shaming people for a noble cause can soon come to an end, because it can be just a hate bandwagon at best, or at worst, stem from some really dark places that are riddled with prejudice and discrimination that I thought we were all against. I hope I defended Fujoshi Nation with honor and valor, because apparently I am one. It's a miracle I did not get set on fire. It is a gosh darn miracle. Hey, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this discussion. And if you did, please make sure to like and subscribe, because every single like means that I will kiss one Fujo on the head in a platonic consenting way. For more of this kind of discourse, you should go check out my media literacy video. It's tagged in the description and also, right here on the eye icon. It's a really good addition, I think, to this conversation about just general things that are present in fandom nowadays. So definitely go check that out if you have not already. Again, my name is E. I do fandom discourse videos like this one, and also some Genshin Impact stuff if you're interested in that. And also, I stream on Twitch Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays at 7 p.m. EST. So definitely go hang out with us over on twitch.tv/eissocial. If you want to get better acquainted, follow my socials on Twitter, my TikTok, and my Instagram. All right, that is it for me. I have to go to bed. It is 11:30 p.m. Hi! If I don't see you on Twitch, then I will see you in the next one. Okay? Bye! Bye, 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 bye. I'm gonna go read Yaoi.